Chairman Jimenez, you are recognized for 5 minutes. Or did I? No, I got Carbajal. Sorry. I forgot you were
I'm easy.
okay, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wong and Mr. McCarthy, the bipartisan infrastructure law provided $2.25 billion in advanced appropriations for the Port Infrastructure Development Program. How important is that funding to your ports, and how will it help you lower emissions from your facilities? It's a softball for a good answer.
All right, Ed, I'll take it first, since it's a softball. Thank you, Congressman. As far as funding goes, one thing I would say about the maritime industry and infrastructure, nothing is cheap in the maritime industry. Infrastructure such as specifically Port Miami, we have a lot of infrastructure that we're operating on, but it's towards the end of life. And as far as processes, funding that's available, let me tell you, our port will take any funding available. Our north bulkhead, for example, where almost all of our cruise vessels end up berthing at. We only have one cruise terminal on the south side, specifically for smaller vessels, but our entire north side, our entire bulkhead needs to get replaced. And that infrastructure and that funding is essential for us to continue to grow and just to continue to operate on a daily basis. The phasing of construction is essential as well. And when you talk about aging infrastructure, we're talking about upwards of $500 million and on estimates as far as our north bulkhead. So it is expensive. It is a length of time for construction, especially during operations.
Great.
Thank you for the question. The infrastructure bill and the amount of funds is critical to the United States and to ports and infrastructure. For Georgia Port Authority, as you could see by what we submitted as our attachment, 3 pages of grants over the last 36 months that we have been blessed to get from Congress and federal grant programs. We are currently applying for a resilient grant to make our electric more robust, so we can shift from rubber tire gantry cranes to electric gantry cranes in our yard. So the infrastructure bill is critical not only to Georgia but to the entire nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fowler, first I wanted to give you credit for Crowley stepping up to embrace the Embark program. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, so with that praise comes great responsibility. But I do want to recognize how your company stepped up and led on that issue. So with that, domestic cabotage laws require vessels carrying cargo between 2 U.S. ports be built, owned, and crewed by Americans. Those vessels are also governed by stricter Coast Guard regulations. What role does the Jones Act have on economic security and port security?
Thank you, and thank you for your comments. I very much appreciate the recognition of our embracing the Embark program. The Jones Act is critically important for our nation's security. So Jones Act, of course, we have U.S. mariners on these vessels, and this is, I think, with the conflict going on around the world, there's a heightened sense and awareness of the importance of having U.S. mariners that are in not only coming in and out of our ports, but in our inland waterway system, that we have U.S. mariners where you don't have the robust security of a port, but in our inland waterway system along the coastal U.S., critically important to our nation's security, that those are American vessels owned by American companies and crewed by American mariners. So in terms of the reliability, of course, you talked about the heightened regulations around U.S. vessels, the as it relates to vessel requirements, it relates to audits, as it relates to crew training, crew regulations. It gives us certainly from a resiliency, and having those Americans on those vessels creates great economic impact for those families. Many of these jobs are six-figure jobs, well into six figures. These are high-paying jobs that support American families across the country, and they ensure at a greater level that our reports remain resilient and safe.
Thank you. This is to all the panel. I'm going to be out of time, so I'm going to submit this question for the record and ask that you follow up with an answer if you could. To all the witnesses, this question is for all the witnesses. As I mentioned, every maritime port obviously happens to be on the water and is therefore subject to rising sea level and extreme weather events. What are you doing to prepare for the future, and how expensive is that preparation? I'll submit that for the record. If you could follow up, that would be great. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.